Hello, everyone. Hey, Kenrod. Fist bump. How's it going? All right, good to see you guys. All right. I like doing these studio shows. It's been a while, since we used to do these on a regular basis, and I had to make some adjustments today. As you can see, I'm using the pink mic. This is the JTS JS1P Plus. That's a mouthful. The 1P means it's a podcaster's mic. And I don't know what it is, but the output seems low, and that was never the case before. I don't know what it is. There's got to be something in the settings. I have no idea what the settings, why, but I had to add like 26 dB of gain just to get it up to where it was like a normal sound. So please let me know. Sorry about that pop. Please let me know if there's any distortion. I'm wearing all Indonesian batik. Not going to show you my pants, but this is, of course, a beautiful shirt. Now I have the colors subdued a little bit because this camera really has like such a strong color profile. It's kind of annoying actually, because I don't want to look like I'm so, pink faced all the time, but anyway, welcome to the show. And tonight, as we said earlier, we're going to visit, or revisit for me actually, photos from my father's World War II service. He was with the 373rd Bomb Squadron. And there's some pretty interesting things. There's actually a story that I want to tell you, and it's kind of a hair-raising story because, those were the times back then. Dean, fist bump to you. Good evening to you. Good to see you on Facebook. On YouTube. And thank you so much for the likes. And I want to thank my new subscribers. Hey, we're going up. I got 303. Now, for me, that's pretty good. I don't know. Maybe after I release another record, it'll go up. I don't know. No idea. But at any rate, I'll turn this down a little bit. At any rate, it is what it is. I'm not complaining. I enjoy live streaming, and I don't do it, necessarily for the views. Views are nice, and but the thing is, I find that I have high retention, and I have no idea why somebody would want to sit and listen to an old guy like me, but people do. They watch, for long periods of time, and it's kind of baffling. Anyway, we haven't seen Coco for a while, so we missed Coco, and I did talk with Eric. Eric has been part of the late night family for a long time, and he was going through a rough patch, but he's got a job now, and everything seems fine. That's good. So I do talk to him occasionally, and he did come back to the group, which was nice. Now my new machine is doing this is a studio machine. It runs like a scalded dog, and I'm using like 1.5% of my CPU, and I got a new GPU too, so I'm running 6.3%. So it's actually great. I got 0 frame drops, and I'm running at about 6100s and like 6170 the bit rate. It's variable. It goes up and down. It goes up and down between like 48K and 71K or a little higher. So I downscaled the resolution. So thank you. I appreciate it. Good, because I am peaking. I'm pinning it. So I think if I'm really into it, sorry about that. If you're wearing earbuds, I should have warned everybody. I think that might distort a little bit, but this is a great sounding mic. I think I just need to go tweak my Windows settings, because I was using it on the old PC and it was fine. Anyway, getting back to, to the setup, I've downscaled everything now for 720p because there's no need really to stream that much data, and 1080p on YouTube. For the kind of stuff that I'm showing. And tonight I've got some nostalgia photos, and they're scans, so they don't have to be super high resolution because they're just not high resolution to begin with. Now, before I actually get into it, I'm going to talk about my father's World War II service in just a few moments. Hey, there she is, Coco. Good to see you. Doing some laundry? Yeah, hey, you did. You tuned in just in time. And your ears must have been, what do you say, your ears are burning or something, or tickling or whatever. Yeah, that must have been it, because you joined us just in time. I noticed that this is, the light keeps turning itself off. There we go. I just noticed that the corner, like over here, was, I have some auxiliary lights that fill in on the green screen, okay? And so you can't see it if you turn off the background. The background just gets dark. But I actually really enjoy the background slides. And I'm going to leave them. I'm going to, Anyway, I made a few changes so I can actually change them with hotkeys if I want to. So like this, the tofu rocks, and there's the fire and all that. Let me make sure. I want to make sure one thing. I'm going to make sure that these are okay. They are. They're randomized. Okay. Not bad. Okay. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm going to just put it back on automatic. All right. So everybody's here tonight. It looks like we're going to have a nice little show tonight, and I really appreciate everyone joining. Let me go ahead and talk about what I want to talk about before I get into the actual World War II show. And what I want to do is I want to talk about my Trike. Sorry about that. I'm doing some stuff in the background. I have a Recumbent Trike. And here it is. I bought it in 2006, and it cost about $1,600 US. It's basically a three-wheeled bicycle with a seat that you sit on, and that's me. And believe it or not, I mean, I know I'm overweight now, but I used to be even more overweight, and the Trike helped me lose a lot of weight. And I have put off riding it now for the last several years. I actually need to put it in a bike shop and have some maintenance done on it. A couple of things are not quite right with it. But the pedals, I don't know why they call them clipless pedals, because you clip in. But I'm clipped in because when you're riding a recumbent like this, what happens is your feet, if they fall off the pedals, will strike the pavement and get sucked underneath, because, recumbent trikes are actually quite fast. They're low to the ground, and they're aerodynamic, and you can get up to very high speeds. And if your foot gets stuck underneath it, it'll blow your knee out. If they call it recumbent, suck, because your foot gets sucked underneath, and because it sucks when it happens. Now, this is me in 2006, and this is just when I was first picking up the Trike. I mounted my GPS on the right. You see at my left hand one of the accessory bars. It is a cool ride, and you can see in this shot the pedals have like retainers on the front of them. I took those off right away. You see what I'm saying? They're kind of like a stirrup. I took those off right away and put the clipless. Well, they actually have clipless on the other side. You can see it. So I just took those little things off. Now, this is what it looks like from the side. And you can see I've taken these. This is a whole generation of photos. These are the original saddlebags I had on the back. And you see my GPS on the left side of it. And on the right, I got like a small little bag I put my keys and stuff in. But basically, you can see that there's a handlebar that goes underneath, and the handlebars basically have upside down brake handles, and there is a button on each side that locks them in for a parking brake. On the front, I have some accessories up there, like I have my lights and so forth. But this is me on a kind of a busy road down by the beach, probably around 2008, something like that. I've gone through a couple of iterations of the Trike, having different kinds of lights on it and various things, but I'm actually wearing a type of a motorcycle helmet here, but I decided to just wear my regular bicycle helmet. I thought it was a lot better. I have different mirrors on it too. These are actually better mirrors. One time I was in the Yong'an area, which is about maybe 18, 20 kilometers from my house on the coast, and I rode by a house, and of course I'm really low to the ground, and I tracked a lot of dogs, and I'm not kidding, 7 dogs were sitting on this person's porch, and they ran out after me, and I didn't know what they were going to do, but I just know that when you're being chased, if you stop immediately, it ends the chase. Like I tell my daughter, don't act like prey. So if you don't act like prey, then, nothing happens, right? So these dogs were chasing me, and I slammed on brakes so hard that the rear wheel came off the ground, and it did something bad to the brakes. And I ended up having to take the wheel off on the side of the road, and it was a fatal accident. I had to call my wife to come get the car, and I put it, it was tough, but I strapped it on the cars before I had the van. I used to strap it on the trunk and have the front tire sit on the roof of our car, and I just bungeed it down. But I was able to recover from that. In this particular picture, you see I have a different saddle bag. I've got the Toe Peak bag on the back, which has drop-down panniers, but it's actually a very nice bag. But there is a toolkit. Hey, Bernardo, fist bump to you, bro. Good to see you. Excellent. It's been a while. How have you been, bro? And so, anyway, I took it back to the shop. To the factory, and it turns out that I'm supposed to have an upgraded version of disc brakes, the BB7s, and they had put BB5s on it by mistake, and I pointed it out to them, and they immediately changed it. So, well, Coco, they take a little while, especially the 2-wheel versions. They take a little while for you to get used to because, you grow up riding a diamond frame, and it's a little bit different balance. Gotta tell you, the seat's wider, you don't have this thing up your backside, because it's not really a seat on a diamond frame. It's a saddle. It's kind of like a saddle on a horse, and when you're riding full blast on a horse, you're not sitting, you're standing up in the stirrups, and it's a similar thing with a bicycle. You can't really get all of that comfortable on a bike seat, which is why I had a customer that makes a seat called the Real Seat, and it's a big wide fabric seat for bikes. I don't think it ever took off. I don't think he sold that many, but it's actually a very good device. And we took him to China to a factory to introduce him to one of our Taiwanese friends that owns a factory in Shenzhen, and they're making them, but I don't know about the quantities now, but anyway. Mike, how you doing? Good to see you. And we're talking about recumbent trikes tonight because enough people were asking about it that I decided to go ahead and do a little slideshow presentation and talk about it some. But the disc brakes are really good. The thing stops on a dime, and like I said, it can stop so fast that the rear tire comes off. Now this is a side shot, and I like this a lot because this is kind of, except for the lights in the front, this is sort of the current iteration of it. Except for, well, there's two things. The light's different, but you'll notice that there's like a seat pad and there's a bulb down the bottom. For a while, I was experimenting with kind of a blow up sort of lumbar support on the thing. It's like a lounge chair, and you'll notice there's a headrest, and you got your feet out front. It's kind of like sitting on the sofa. And Coco, you can get a 2-wheeled bicycle, in this configuration, but if you get a trike, you don't have to worry about balance. And the other thing I love about it is you don't have to worry about maintaining a certain speed in order to not fall over like you do with a 2-wheeled vehicle. This thing, you can just take your time and climb a hill as slowly as you want to. I even had them change the front chain ring to an extremely small one, so I would have extra torque to be able to climb really steep inclines though, without having to, to exert as much force as I would, in a higher gear. That's what, so the cassette has 7 sprockets in the back and there's 3 in the front. So it's 3 times 7. But the chain ring on the granny gear, as we call it, when you're in the low gear on the rear cassette and you're in low gear on the front, you're barely moving, but you can climb a tree with that thing. It's amazing. I have the toe peak bag on the back, which I still have. Now the toe peak bag has now deteriorated. That thing is like, no, it really is. It is, because you don't have to worry about being stable on it. The toe peak bag is deteriorated. I have to get another one. If you look right under the seat, if you see where that bulb is hanging from the hose, it crosses right in front of a joint. This is actually a folding trike. And the first several times that I rode it, I had a problem with that folding joint coming apart, while I was riding. So I finally just bolted it together because I never take it apart. But this is a folding trike, and they make another one. Excuse me. This is called the Artifice. They make another one called the F1 that's actually bigger. It came out after this one, and the F1 is not folding. So, oh, I see. Yeah, well, that's what's really cool is the fact that you can be 82 and ride one of these. And you can just take your time and you don't have to worry about falling over or anything. It's amazing. It's got disc brakes. It's very safe, and it drives like a sports car. I mean, really. And you see how long the chain is. You can see the chain underneath the seat going back to the back. And there's tubes, that in the front to keep it from smacking up against your leg. But it's really nice. So, well, the thing is, Coco, is guys like gadgets. And this thing, I mean, I'll tell you what happened to me one time. Before I got the van, I drove all the way down to Kaohsiung in the last decade, like 2008 or 2009 or something. And I had it strapped. Like I had the rear wheel on the trunk and the front wheels on the roof of the car. And I was, and the seat does fold. It says it's a folding trike. The seat does fold down. So if you look right behind the seat under the headrest, there's a clip, and I folded the seat down. Somebody chased me on the highway. I don't know how long, but they were going the same direction we were going anyway. And we went to a rest stop to, use the restroom and get something to eat. And this guy followed us in. He said, "I've been following you for like the last hour. I wanted to find out, where can I get one of these things? This bike is so cool." And of course I told him, you might be able to, yes, exactly. Yeah. And you're shifting back and forth because they're on your sit bones, and it's actually bad for men in particular, but women don't like it either. And I don't know, they have the new saddles that have the split down the center. It doesn't really help. This is like a lounge chair, and it's, the seat on this is fabric and it's perforated, so you got air blowing through it. It's nice. You don't even feel like you're sweating. It's very comfortable. In my case, I really like the rear wheel because it's alloy. I like the cast alloy rear wheel on this a lot. It's very stable and it's very light. The only thing about the trike is that I'd like to point out is that you can't stand up on the pedals when you're climbing hills. And I used to ride with these diamond frame riders, and they always mock me when I'm going uphill. That thing's so slow. Okay, well, number one, I'm carrying twice as much weight as you. Number two, if you'll notice, basically the direction of force, like your legs straight out in front of you, is roughly 90 degrees out of phase with gravity, which means that basically I'm doing leg presses. And when I told them that, then the respect level went up. They realized, oh yeah, you're riding uphill, and like with like 1.5 bicycles worth of weight. Because let's face it, I mean, the thing is heavier. It's chrome moly, but it is heavier. And I put a bunch of stuff on it too, because I don't really care about weight. When you have one of these, you're not one of those. I mean, I know guys that they don't even have a kickstand. You know, they got a $7,000, US dollar bike without a kickstand because, oh, it's too much weight. Yeah, you're not Lance Armstrong. Just anyway. So I did see a picture where somebody put a kickstand on one of these just for a joke, just to see. They would go to 7-Eleven and something and throw the kickstand down just to see if anybody noticed or commented on it. That was pretty funny. But I'm thinking, Coco, if you show your husband one of these things, he might actually really enjoy it because it's a cool gadget, And I can put you in touch with the company here, and if you want to get one from overseas, I can help with that. But I know they have dealers in the U.S. For these, and there are a number of different manufacturers. This was the TW Bents, TW-Bents, and of course Bents being Recumbents. The company has been sold to a new company called eFun Bikes in Taiwan, and they have put like motors on them. So they have versions of these Recumbent Trikes and Recumbent bikes now that have battery powered motors. And so I don't have a battery powered motor, but I could have got one. You can always retrofit them. But the cool thing is the companies also make trailers for these. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, you know how to contact me. They make trailers for these. And recently I saw Steve Wallace, Camping with Steve. He did an electric conversion on his bike so he could go a long way and take a trailer. The trailer is basically full of batteries. But can you imagine a trailer on this? Because, you're not really worried about weight. And as long as you just, take your time and get up to speed, I mean, these things go really fast, especially downhill. Downhill, I have to hold it. I try not to go over 55 kilometers an hour going downhill. So, yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. There's guys that talk about, oh, you got to go do a century. You got to do this and that and the other thing. And, it's kind of like, Mike, one day I was fishing and somebody came up to me and they said, what are you fishing for? And I looked at them and I said, fun. What do you think? So, that's it. And if you can't have fun. And there are people that try to make a competition out of everything. That's not me. I'm not that guy. I'm not competitive. And as soon as somebody wants to race, go ahead, you win. I don't care. I'm about having fun. Another point about the Recumbent Trike and all Recumbent bikes in general is you look at the front where the chain ring is and the pedals, and there's a black tube, and that fits inside the other tube. It's a telescoping. Okay, take care, Ken. Thanks so much. I appreciate you stopping in. I know you got to get ready for work. Yeah, the World War II story is going to be interesting. Hope you find it enjoyable, and let me know. Thanks, and take care. But you can adjust that length for your legs. So it's not just a, one size fits all and so forth. Dean, do you split in two? Got to take off. All right. Thanks so much. So it's not just a one size fits all. And so this is me down. This is my trike down at the beach. And just for a second, let me take the chat off just so you can see the front. That's the old light. But you see my GPS on the front, and the GPS acts kind of like a bike, like a bike computer. And for years I was using bikemap.net, and I was uploading all of my rides to them, which is pretty cool. And the GPS, saves GPX files. Now this is me, and this is back when I had a lot more weight. I was first starting to ride the thing. This is probably maybe 2 years after I had it. I'm going up an incline onto the one of our many amazing bike trails we have. Taiwan has a whole network, hundreds of kilometers of bike trails, and they're all down by the coast, and they're just amazing. This is a shot that I took near a temple. If you guys saw the dragon boat race, it's the same temple area. This is the new configuration I have now. And if you'll notice on the left handle, that little pink thing, that's pepper spray because I had a couple dogs chase me. But those are the new lights that I have by a company called Bosch, B-O-A-C-H. And these lights are very, very bright. They're amazing. I run them even during the daytime because it does help. And there again, this is me in the tunnel at the beginning, and you can see how bright the lights are. So there we go. That is the Recumbent Trike story, and I think you pretty much know, just about everything that there is to know about the Recumbent Trikes now. But they make a really it's a very interesting device, if you will. Okay. And so, I mean, it's a little awkward to get, especially the two-wheel one. It's a little awkward to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's like, I can never go back, and I only ride my diamond frame just to go to the store and stuff. I would never ride my diamond frame up to the coast like I used to. I did that, many years ago when I first came to Taiwan, but now that I got the Recumbent, no, never. So, due to sudden rainstorms, why? GPS units are all waterproof. I mean, there's most of GPS units, the handheld units, are designed for maritime mobile use. So yeah, every Garmin GPS I've ever had is weatherproof. By the way, that one that I was using there was a Garmin Colorado, which I still have. I need to do some maintenance on it because some of the in the battery compartment, the springs, they're all gone. But Garmin is always fixed. Every one of my GPSs, no matter what was wrong with the Garmin, is always fixed them for free. It's just amazing. Garmin's just an amazing, amazing company. And so I wish I had a sponsorship, from them, but I don't. So, but there you go. Hey, Matthew, fist bump. Good to see you. Glad you could join us. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my father's World War II service, and I do have a blog post on this. I'm actually going to refer to this. I did a blog post on the 22nd of September in 2008, and at that time I had asked for anybody who knew anything about these photographs to contact me. But anyway, let me go ahead and get started, and I'll just tell you the story as we go along. And just please keep in mind, I'm burping here. Well, okay. Why? Okay, but I wouldn't take an iPad out of the house because if you drop it, it's dead. That's what I'm saying. My Garmin Colorado. I mean, if the lock was stuck on the door, you can go, it's pretty, iPads are just, no, they're too delicate. So, but that's just my opinion. Now I got to move some stuff out of the way here because, okay, hold on here. All right. I'm trying to find the best. There you go. All right, let's get into it. Now, this is my father on the left. And his name is James E. Klein. And let me turn off the chat just for a second. I will still be able to read it. But this is my father and his best friend. And they're at the Stork Club in New York City. And this is a very interesting photo. And my father's best friend his name is Maurice White. And what I know about him was my father said he was from Erie, Pennsylvania. I have been unable to contact Mr. White, and I assume he's probably deceased, like my father who passed in 2011. Most of the men from this era are gone. And, you know, I'm glad I got the information that I could get out of my father while he was still alive. But the last few years of his life, he suffered from dementia, and it was difficult to communicate with him about that. But I did get a chance to interview my father in 1999, and he never spoke about the war when I was a kid. He would only talk about it later in life. It affected him very, very badly. But what's really so amazing about this photograph is this is 1944, and Mr. White is Filipino. He's Filipino American. I don't know what it is about Filipino people, but they're generally looked down upon. See, I live in a neighborhood with lots of Filipino people, and they feel like they're inferior themselves. I went to a church once, and there were some Filipino ladies, and I said, go sit in the front row. And they said, oh, no, we have to sit in the back. I'm like, what are you talking about? You have to sit in the back, sit in the front. And they wouldn't do it. I've been in the Philippines, right? And yeah, I'm glad my dad had a family too, but I'm going to tell you right now, when I finish this story, you're going to realize that that family almost did not happen. I was in the Philippines, and I went with my friend Sonny, who I know here from Taiwan. I went back to his village where he lived, and his cousin Greg was our driver. So I was walking around with two Filipino guys, and everywhere I went, the number one question I got asked is, let me show the comments. Why are you with Filipino guys? I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, well, they don't usually hang out with white men. And I mean, I never even thought about this. It's weird. But they did a lot of stuff together. And this is them, you know, of course I got a football there, and they're in their uniforms. And my father, he always had nothing but praise for Mr. White's skills as an aviator, and also just for his warm friendship. They did a lot of cool stuff together. They went to India together. That's my dad. There's an Indian gentleman, and then there's my father, and there's Maurice kind of hugging up close to him, so I guess we can get into the picture, you know. And there's a snake handler. These are some pretty amazing historical photos here. And I'm really glad that I got a chance to, to show these to everyone. And so here's another shot of them in India. And you can see they're best buds. I mean, arms around each other and stuff, it's great. So, all right, I just got notified I have a little bit of a data issue here. So, I mean, a transmission issue. So let me know if we're having difficulties with buffering. It should be okay. So this is a snake handler, and they're in India. My father is in a number of different countries during World War II. And this is them too. They're clowning around. And of course, in the military, what do? You play with guns and you play with knives. So here, Mr. White is, rifle butting my dad, and my dad stabbing him. Okay. I think I like the football picture better than that, but all right. Now this is interesting. We're going to get into some social stuff here. You see my father, he's down in the center, on the floor, centered to the right. And I think you can probably recognize him by now. He has a lei around his neck. So all the men are wearing dark clothes. And so he has a woman next to him, and he's not holding her hand or anything. But obviously, I mean, she's his date. But I want you to take note of this. This is really amazing. Like, here's another picture of my dad with a woman named Diane. And, I guess I'm not sure if he's holding her hand or holding her arm or whatnot, but there's another picture, and he certainly is holding this woman's hand. And he's my father's on the far right here. In this picture, obviously my father is on the left. Just want to make sure we know what we're talking about here. My father's on the left. And he's on the right here, holding another woman's hand. He got his arm around her, and yet he's with another one here, and obviously he's got his arm around her too. And here's another one. So it's like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but guy's a legend. Now what he did was he told me that this. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's another one. I didn't realize there's even another one here. Hands are under the table. I can't tell all these pictures. You can't tell if he's holding her hand or whatnot. But my dad is in civilian clothes here, and I think he told me that this is his cousin. So we're going to go with that. So what do you think? Is this my dad's cousin? I don't know. I just know that if we go back through, I mean, starting from here, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's 7. So yeah, what can I say? All right. Anyway, but he was a well-liked guy, personable guy, and he was always clowning around. And it's just a picture of him in his uniform. And this is a picture that I remember when I was a kid. I'd go visit Grandma and Grandpa. My father was from Buffalo, New York. That's where I was born. Don't tell anybody, because nothing comes out of Buffalo that's any good, in my opinion. But that's whatever. And this is your son Jim. This is a picture that he sent home. And I remember this picture being on my grandmother's nightstand in her bedroom. I had seen it growing up. And I'm not sure where this picture is now. But I should probably, there's a tear in it. I should probably try to clean it up. These days with, all the photo editing software that we have, it's relatively easy to clean these up. All right, so let's get into, some historical photos here. This is actually his official photograph, and he's got his headphones on because he was the navigator and bombardier. That's what was his assignment. Sometimes he had to man the radio, but it's a nice flight jacket. I never saw that. My father brought home his I guess it was part of the BDU, but he had a khaki jacket that he wore until the thing wore out. And I mean, he wore it until like at least, 1979. So I never saw the flight jacket, but they had to dress warm in the B-24 Liberator. All right, so these are just some guys, in his outfit. That's my father on the far right. I have no idea where this picture's taken. A lot of these pictures, I don't know where they're taken. And his squadron, it was the 373rd Bomb Squadron. They were actually stationed in so many places that I'm not really sure where they're from. So, okay, so I want to. What did my dad tell me that I remember most? Oh, I'm going to tell you. He told me some horrific stories. Some horrific stuff. But the B-24 Liberator has roll-up bomb bay doors, and well, I'll tell you that story in a minute. This is my father doing, this is a kind of KP duty. Apparently this is what they do with leftover food. They put it in buckets and they scoop it out. And anyway, these are some shots from their base, and this is probably in China. I'm not sure exactly where they were, Kunming, or I'm not sure. I do have a map. The map right now is in the possession of 2 Taiwanese researchers who wrote a book, and they actually made a series of Google Maps map plots, and they used they made a replica of my father's B-24 Liberator that he was that he served on. That was pretty cool. But the map shows details. It shows bombing sites that they actually struck actually did missions on, and it also shows the place where they are stations, their home base, but I don't remember what it is. I haven't seen the map for a while because researchers have had this map for over 10 years. But that's my father, and there's the barracks behind him, and he's just, cleaning his fingernails with a switchblade. This is I think this is a PBY. The front end of it looks like a B-24 Liberator, but it's a single tail. And this is just a photograph my father had of an aircraft. Now this, I believe, is Okinawa, because part of the time my father was in Okinawa, he spoke very highly of Okinawa, said he always wanted to go back there. I regret that I couldn't take him there. And later in life, when I was old enough that I could afford to take my father, overseas, he was too frail to go. But my father spoke highly of the hardworking and honest Okinawan people, and he said he loved it there. This is China, and it looks like they're doing some work on the runway area, and those are they hired a lot of Chinese nationals. Now, interestingly enough, this was the Republic of China. Okay, so the government that was in charge now is the same government that's on Taiwan. It's a different political party now, but I'm just saying Taiwan is the Republic of China. And that's where they fled to after the war with the communists. This is a shot looking out the waist window of the B-24 Liberator at another aircraft. I forget what this is. Somebody told me. I believe that this aircraft is from the Australian Navy. But if you look, that's one of the vertical, one of the tail, the fins, if you will, of B-24 Liberator that you see in the picture. It's pretty cool. And this picture I have included because I'm pretty sure on the left, I'm pretty sure this is Maurice White from an earlier photo. But these guys, obviously, they all did this detail. And this is an outrigger canoe. Again, tropical. I'm pretty sure this is Okinawa, too. It's the same place that the other place was. These guys are sitting around drinking beer, so... yeah, it really is. I'm glad that I have these. My brother-in-law actually scanned these, so I have him to thank for scanning these. Otherwise, I would never have them. But this is what you do on a tropical island, And what else do? You climb trees and stuff. Here's another picture of this same aircraft out the window. One of the things, I don't have these photos. I went to visit my dad once, and I went over to his house, and just sitting on the microwave, he had a pack of photos, and I said, hey, I'm going to look at these because I'm a snoop, I guess. But I picked them up, and they're all black and white. I'm like, what the heck? Who does black and white photos today? And I kept looking at, there's mountains and stuff. And then in one shot, there was a frame, and I realized these were pictures from World War II that my father had evidently just recently gotten developed, and they were looking at the Himalayan mountains from the waist gunner window of the B-24 Liberator. I'll talk about that in a minute. I will show this the B-24 Liberator, and I'll talk to you about what I mean in just a moment. But I was flabbergasted because my father told me that they flew over the hump, they call it. They were stationed in India too. He was part of the China-India conflict, they call it. And it's pretty amazing. He told me that they flew the B-24 Liberator from California, and it's amazing. They flew it all the way around and went to India and then flew over the Himalayas. So it looks like they went a long way, instead of going over the Pacific. But anyway, because India is basically on the other side of China from California. And so this is a shot of somebody. I'm not sure if that's my dad or not, but they're obviously climbing a tree. And this has got to be Okinawa. All right, so I'm not sure what kind of aircraft this is, but this is a hospital ship. You see the cross on it. This may be the front. I can't really tell. I don't know. I was thinking it was a B-25, but I don't think so. This is another PBY. it's a distant photo. The only reason I include this is just because these are historical photos and somebody's going to recognize what this is. There's that hospital plane again, shot from the rear. All right, so just some guys from the outfit, you know. There's my dad in the center hanging out with some other officers. He was a first lieutenant. And my father is interred in Arlington. He's in Arlington National Cemetery. Okay. Now let's get into the aircraft. This is the B-24 Liberator that my father served on. And if you blow it up, you can read the tail number and stuff. Now this is called, the name of the ship, they named it Little Egypt. And the B-24 Liberator was a 4-engine heavy bomber. And my dad and everybody else, he told me that they called it the B-2x4 because it was kind of boxy. It's got the twin tail. It's very distinctive. But this ship is extremely durable. I was talking to somebody the other day, and apparently there may be a modern premise or a modern supposition that this ship was kind of vulnerable because the B-17 had a great reputation, you know, for holding together under fire. This wing system, they call the Curtiss wing, and it's real short and stubby. See, it's not very long. It's a thick wing and it's stubby. And the wing spar goes all the way through the ship to the other side. So it's a single piece, basically. And my father's ship, this ship right here, got grounded permanently after it got shot so bad that it broke the wing spar in the center. So the wings weren't actually all that well attached to the plane, but it still got them home over 1,000 miles. The B-24 Liberator has 2 bomb bays, and they have roll-up doors, just like a garage door. And they took the back bay out because they had to travel. I looked on the map, and they had to travel over 1,000 nautical miles to get to their bombing targets from where they were in China. So you're guessing that they didn't have GPS? No, GPS did not exist at that time. So, well, they had standard avionics, you know, of the day. It was mostly nautical charts. The aeronautical charts are based on nautical miles. They just had the aeronautical charts, you know, and compass. Excuse me. And these guys were really good. They knew what they were doing. So the back bomb bay was taken out, and they put a gas tank in it. And so my father told me that they took a shell from the Japanese Navy, and it hit that gas tank. Now, the theory was what they wanted to do, or the protocol was that you flew out on the wing tanks, and you flew back on the internal tank. And the reason is they wanted the internal tank full to the brim. So if it took bullets, there would be no oxygen in the tank, no air in the tank, because you can't have an explosion or fire without air. And so literally, if you fill the gas tank up all the way to the top and it takes a bullet, the bullet should go right through it in theory. Of course, after that, it's going to leak. But they took a shell and it hit the aircraft so hard. My father said it literally knocked the tank loose, and it flew into space beside the aircraft and then blew up outside. I was like, wow. And another question Mike asked me about a story my father told me. My father was dropping bombs. Okay, he was the bombardier. He would sit on the Norden bomb site and pull what they call the pickle. And if there's no action, if there's no fighters, you know, the gunners are not busy, and the navigator has control of the ship. The navigator flies the ship because the pilot throws a switch and it gives control to the bombardier running the bomb site, right? Because he has to steer the plane over the target. And so unless there's some action, guys aren't quite so busy and they got time to look at stuff. And there was a guy standing in the bomb bay. The bomb bay has a walkway through it, and he was watching the bombs drop. And my father told him, put your flak jacket on. So everybody knows what that is. It's a jacket that has metal armor in it to protect you from exploding pieces of shrapnel and gunfire. And the guy blew my father off, basically that I don't need it. And then my father said a few seconds later, a Japanese fighter tore into the underbelly of the ship, and this poor unfortunate guy exploded, and just his body exploded. And after that, the pilot took control because they're done bombing now, because now they're under attack, and all the gunners are going into action. And now the only person who's not busy is my father, who's a navigator and a bombardier. So guess what he had to do? Yeah, he got a body bag and collected this gentleman's remains. And so, yeah, that was a story that he told me. And my jaw's open now. So you can imagine just hearing him. But the thing that impressed me the most about this story is the kind of matter-of-fact way that he said it. And I'm like, what have you seen? He's seen some stuff. He's seen some serious stuff. All right, now look at the star on the side. The designation, the Air Force designation. Look at that star. And right next to the star to the right, you see a window. Ordinarily, that window is open. It looks like it has plexiglass on it, because the nose of the nose turret is plexiglass. So it looks like they have a gun pivot there. Usually that's called the waist window, and usually that's open. But it was open on the B-24 that I was inside of. So that's kind of interesting. So this photograph, I posted this photograph to a World War II site that commemorated that bomb group, and they told me this is an unknown photo. They had never seen this photo before. And so that's really cool. And this one. And this is my father leaning up against Little Egypt. And Little Egypt was somewhat of a famous aircraft, I guess. But during my research in the early part of the 21st century, I was researching, a little bit more about my father's wartime service and about this aircraft. And I ran across this photo. This is a completely different pilot. And he's in front of Little Egypt, and it's obviously this same aircraft. Now, look at the shadow. The shadow is directly under the aircraft. And look at the shadow on this photograph. Of course, the wheel looks like it's turned a little bit, and I can't really tell if the wheel is turned in this shot. But this may be the same day. My father's name was James Edward. And so, yeah, these stories, well, like the history guy says, it's history deserves to be remembered. Well, I was doing some research, and I found out that this guy here is Red Cochran. He became a famous football player and football coach. And he even worked with Vince Lombardi. And the reason I found out was I found his son. His son's name is Russ. So Russ Cochran, I found him on the internet, and I asked him, and I showed him this picture. And I asked him, would it be possible for you to ask your father if he knew this gentleman? And unfortunately, Mr. Cochran had already passed by that time. And the other unfortunate thing was when I found this photo, and after I found out the gentleman's name, I called my father and I asked him if he ever met another pilot named Red Cochran. And my father was so far gone from dementia that he gave me a gibberish answer, and I never got the answer. So Nobody knows. Nobody knows if these two men knew each other or not. Now, if you look above Little Egypt, you see some marks. It's hard to tell what they are. But if you look above the insignia here, you see clearly they're bombs. This apparently, you know what, they rack up a score on the primary target, then they put a bomb on it, you know. But I can't tell from these pictures if I can't count them, you know. I don't know, maybe I could change the contrast, but I can't see the whole row of them anyway. And this picture, it's almost impossible. But it's likely, see this picture, the nose wheels turned, the nose wheels turned. I can't tell if the nose wheels turned, but these pictures all could have been taken on the same day. They could have been personally acquainted. They could have, who knows? Just one of those things we'll never know. So there's Red Cochran. And I mean, look at this. This guy was amazing. I don't know anything about sports, so I can't tell you any more about him, except you can look him up on the internet. Red Cochran. Now, this is the story. My father is kneeling down. He is the second from the left. I want you to notice something about him. He's the only man wearing a dress shirt and a tie. See, the other guys in the front are wearing dress shirts, but without a tie. That's just his style. See how his hat's kind of pulled back a little bit? This guy was a character. I didn't really realize it because, you know, you're a kid growing up. You don't know your parents like other people know them, right? So, you see, he kind of had his own style. Now, here's the story. This is a shot of the class that my father trained with. They train the whole crew together. Okay, they sleep together, they mess together, everything. They stay in the barracks on the base, because when you're in combat, you have to be able to look at somebody and give them nonverbal signals, and you have to get to know these people very well, right? So one of these men, his name is Kruger. I don't know his first name, but he was killed in a training accident. Now, when I was in North Carolina to visit my father in 2008, my father identified Kruger for me in this photograph. He's the second from the left in the rear row, no hat. Okay? The rear row, second guy from the left. And he died in a training accident. My father at that time was starting to suffer from dementia. So I asked him a little bit more about Kruger. And what happened was, it's bad enough when, a parent loses a son or a daughter, in combat. But he didn't even make it to combat, and he was killed. And so my father volunteered to take the body home and stay with his parents and help explain to them that this was a training accident. There was a malfunction with the training aircraft. It wasn't Kruger's fault. My father said he was an excellent aviator. And then my father got up off the sofa. He's telling me the story, and he goes to his bookshelf and he pulls out a photo album, and he's flipping through it, and he goes, "Oh, here we go. This is Kruger's parents and I." And sure enough, he's standing between two older people. I was like, "Wow, this really happened. This isn't a dementia story," because we have to be honest here. Sometimes these things happen. And so my father took the body home, and the Kruger family invited him to stay. So he did for a couple of days. And by the time he got back, he and Kruger had been replaced. And this class graduated and got their assignment. Now here's where it gets strange. So by the time my father had returned from that particular duty that he felt compelled to do, and he volunteered for it, he'd been replaced, his class assigned. He came back to the base and he found them already gone. So my father was assigned to a new class, and he went through the training all over again with the second class. Now, in the meantime, while he's training with the second class, he received word that his first class had gone on their first mission and were wiped out on their first mission. They were part of Operation Tidal Wave, and they were shot down over Ploiești, Romania on August 1st. So this is 1943. So you saw the picture of my father in 1944. That was the second class. That was the second class photo. So this is really amazing to find out that none of these men made it, and they were wiped out on their first mission. And one can only imagine how that made my father feel, but I know how it made me feel. It was really just really something. And so there are a lot of stories like this, and they've been lost, so if you have parents that have been through things, it is crazy. If you have parents that have been through things, before it's too late, make sure that you ask them about it. Because the last time I was actually able to talk to my father about his World War II experiences, and he could still explain things, I had a penchant for, I had the ability to be able to listen to him, even while he was having trouble speaking due to dementia, but I could understand what he was saying. And it turns out that, the B-24 Liberator was designed as a high altitude bomber, but they used it basically as a dive bomber, and they were doing very low altitude bombing. And there's a letter of commendation that I have a copy of to his group for developing new bombing techniques that previously had not existed. And they didn't know that they could do that with the B-24 Liberator as the Norden bombsight. It's designed to drop bombs from 10,000 feet or more. And my father said that they came upon the Japanese Navy, and they were so low to the water that they had to turn the windshield wipers on, do the salt spray on the aircraft. That was just amazing. And so he was in the Mekong Delta, which they used to call French Indochina, we now call Vietnam, and he was also in the Formosa Strait, the Taiwan Strait. So I don't know if my father, I was not able to find out if he actually was in Taiwan, but he knew all about Taiwan and knew the history, and loves Taiwan people, and he had spent time in Okinawa and loves all those people. My father was in Japan the day after VJ Day, and it was amazing. He said that he was walking down the street, and people were throwing garments on the ground because they didn't want the American conquerors their feet to touch the road. It was just amazing stories that he told me. But so this is the class, and he didn't go with them, fortunately for me and for my family. So this is a picture of my father immediately post World War II. And I got one more story to tell you. And I may have told this on a live stream, but I think it's, I need to tie it in here. My father told me that one of the biggest problems he had returning to civilian life was to undo the kill, kill, kill mentality, that they train into you in the military, right? So, yeah, I'm here just by fate. Yep, that's it. But that's how it works. Random probabilities. I mean, King Solomon said it. Basically what King Solomon said was in the book of Ecclesiastes in chapter 9. He basically said stuff happens. Doesn't matter. The swift don't have the race, and so the talent, the best guitar player and the best singer doesn't always have the record deal. All right. So this picture reminds me of what he told me. And he said that coming back to civilian life was difficult for him because they do kill, 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 right? Which is why you don't want the military doing police, because police and military have separate jobs. The police are there to protect and serve the public. The military is designed for killing enemies. And so that's why there are laws like in the United States called posse comitatus that prevent the military from being police. Anyway, my father was in a bar and he was in Buffalo. And Buffalo's a rough town. And my father told me that he went to an area called Duck Town. And they call it Duck Town because of the DA, the Ducks, Heine, haircut, right? A lot of tough guys like Fonzie. And he was in the bar and a guy was mouthing off to him. And so my father, we saw that picture of him cleaning his fingernails with a switchblade. My father took a switchblade out and he pinned the guy's foot to the floor and basically beat him silly. And then my father said he unpinned his foot and then wiped the blood off on the guy's sleeve. I'm like, holy cow. It's like, man, oh man. So I said, what'd you do after that? And he said, well, I still had a beer to finish. Okay, I don't know if we should be cheering for that, but my gosh. I mean, that's legend stuff. So, anyway, there's a picture of my mother. And my mother passed away a couple of months ago at 93. But she went on to become a famous singer and all that stuff. And so this my parents were married in 1952. And I was born in 1956. And then my first sibling came along, my sister Janet. She came along a year and 2 months later. So there you go. So that was it. And I want to go back to the first one. I like this one. So, oh yeah. That was amazing about those coded letters and stuff. So my dad lived to be 88 years old, Mike. 88. And my father died of, my father died of diabetic dementia. So you guys remember that. Diabetes is no fun, and he didn't take care of it. He told me, it's really bizarre because my father told me when he was in his late 50s. No, wait a second. My father was in his 60s. Anyway, he told me that his doctor had told him in the late 50s that he needed to do something about his diabetes, right? And he didn't. He just never did. And my father would do crazy stuff like, in the afternoon, he would like go get a Snickers bar, or he would go get, ice cream and stuff. And I see a lot of people on Facebook and they're posting about, Uncle so-and-so or Grandpa so-and-so. And they're taking them out, for ice cream and pancakes and all these high carbohydrate things that they can't handle at that age. He was born in, you had to ask me. I don't remember. 27 maybe. I don't remember. So, anyway, he was 88 when he died in 2011. So do the math. And, so yeah, cause I have friends in Taiwan from the States, and they're, older, and I tell them, you can't just go to the steakhouse, get a steak and then order, hot apple pie with vanilla ice cream. You can't do that anymore. And they think I'm crazy. And then they go get their blood sugar checked and they realize that, yes, you can't do that anymore. Because, He never did never did anything about his diabetes type 2, which is number one, completely avoidable, and number two, completely reversible. But he just had no interest in that at all. So yeah, well, thank you so much for sticking around, Coco. I appreciate it. It was a long-winded talk, but no, thank you. That, and you know, I have other stuff from him that my brother brought. My brother came here into Taiwan. He came to Taiwan in 2011, and he brought me an old radio from the 30s with the the rounded top on it that was in my grandparents' basement, and he brought that to me. And he also brought a picture that my father got in Okinawa in World War II and sent back home, and he brought that here. So I got that. It's a picture of a Japanese man. I'm not sure if he's a samurai, but he's in traditional dress. Pretty amazing. And then my father had a collection of currency, and it has like, he has military currency from the Philippines and Japan, and he has money from all kinds of places in Europe that he visited. But most important thing is to me is he has Republic of China banknotes that were issued in Shanghai. So that's just amazing. And there's a bunch of them too. I don't know anything about whether they're museum quality, but the quality is extremely high on those banknotes. So they might be actually, I should contact, I know what to do. I'm going to contact the National Museum in Taiwan and see if they'd be interested in acquiring some of those. But yeah, carbs will do it. Exactly. And it's so much easier to just ignore it. And that's what he did. And the ice cream and the candy bars. And then, pretty soon he started having coordination issues. Now, the funny thing is he never had to have anything amputated, but after a while he couldn't talk. And I have a digital video, digital tape video camera from those days. And I interviewed him a couple of times, and it was just hard to, he was making sense to himself, but it came out wrong. He couldn't. And being an engineer and being able to express yourself technically and very detailed verbiage, for an engineer, is, you can imagine how frustrating it must. And he would be talking, and things would happen, and he would just go like, oh, he would just get so frustrated. But it's his own fault. It made me really angry later in life to see him do this. And my brother was taking care of him, and he became incontinent, and then he was confined to a wheelchair, and then he was in a nursing home, and that was the end of it. And the problem is, like I said, it is completely reversible. No, I did not. I didn't go to my mother's funeral either. And I didn't even watch it on live stream. I have my own opinion about my parents. It's already formed. It's already formulated. I just didn't want to. I don't like funerals. I like weddings. I love weddings, and I love wedding anniversaries, but I hate funerals, and I don't go to them. And there are certain people that if they pass, and if I'm expected to attend the funeral, they're going to have to carry me in. That's all I can say. I take it hard. It bothers me. But my sister visited his grave. He's interred in a wall. Many of the horizontal. They're basically like cubby holes. But my father was cremated, so it's an urn. And what's really bizarre, and a kind of a twist, is that our company, Asian Castings, has a customer. It's our biggest customer, actually. They do mortuary parts. Yep, I hear you, Coco. They do mortuary products. They make parts for crypt shutters for that exact kind of internment. And we make like decorative items called rosettes that are little floral castings, and they go around the screw head to kind of hide the screw heads, that hold the crypt shutters on. I guess they're made out of stone, right? They're heavy stone. There's a distinct possibility that our company, may have actually made the hangers and the slides and all that stuff that was used in his crypt. It's so bizarre when you think about it. It's just because my sister showed me a picture of it, and I was like, wow, those rosettes look familiar. And it's like, holy cow. I of course haven't seen inside it, but it's there. It's in Arlington. I can go anytime, but I have never been back. So yeah, since my father passed away in 2011, and since 2010, I've only been to the United States one time, and I went for 4 days to see Dr. Sears. You guys know that story. So I stayed for 4 days, and I was in Florida. That was it. I went back. So if I ever get back and I get a chance to, to travel, in the States, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, exactly. Get off gluten. I know. And so my face is thinner than it used to be. You see some pictures of me. But here's the thing. I'm just as guilty. I'm going to tell you right now. I know exactly what I should be eating. Cruciferous, bok choy is really good. And of course, broccoli and cauliflower and those, of course, I take a lot of supplements that are supposed to kind of make up for not eating some of those things. But I'm supposed to really cut down. Dr. Sears actually recommended that I have 0 carbs. But the other thing too is you can't have all meat protein, because if you have an excess of protein, then it's hard on your kidneys and you start getting foamy urine and stuff like that. And it's just, so you have to have a certain amount of protein from vegetables, and protein should be high quality protein, not like hot dogs. It should be like fish, and eggs are really good. Eggs are one of the better things that you can eat. So, my father did not, we joke, my father was washing his face straight up when he was like 44. When my father's 44, he was actually quite bald. Now for me, okay, I'll show you. I mean, you can see that it's thinning, but my hair has been thinning for 20 years. Of course, it's really thick on the sides and thick in the back, but I'm 66. And, if I go like this, I guess you can kind of see pink. And if I cut, what most men do is they just cut their hair really short, because when your hair is short, you see your skull anyway, so you see your skin anyway. But I mean, if I turn the contrast down, you can see it's a little bit thinner, but I just don't want to get to the point where I look like, nothing wrong with that, man. And the other thing is, I was just going to say, I just don't want to get to the point where I look like I'm trying to hang on, and I should really cut my hair short. Cause I did see a guy once at the airport and he got on a plane as I was getting on, and he's one of those guys that had like, just his hair was in strands. It was mostly bald, but it had a couple of basically tufts, and he had gathered the tufts into a ponytail, and the ponytail was about that long, and it was about as thick as my finger. And I just, in my opinion, I thought it looked absolutely ridiculous, but hey, go for it. But, the thing of it is, when it happens to you, it's different. But, men, we don't judge other men on their hair. We don't think twice about it. We see a bald man. And a lot of guys, I think, look great. And I've known men who, from an early age, just shaved their head because they thought it looked better, even though they had a full head of hair. And it's funny because my father and my mother got married in Buffalo, and they moved to Florida. There was kind of a back then, in the early in mid 50s, there was a big exodus from the north. People were moving into Florida. Florida was being developed. This is in St. Petersburg. I remember when I was a little kid. As a matter of fact, the picture that I showed with my sister and I, we're in Florida at that time, and my sister and I were born in Buffalo, but we were in a temporary house, and I was well, let's see, I was 3 years old. I remember the temporary house. I remember it, and I also remember seeing our house being built. My father bought a house on the GI Bill from World War II, and he paid $10,000. It was a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath house with a garage, and he made the garage to a workshop. So, oh, I see. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's practical. And a lot of guys do, and a lot of guys, just like, they'll shave their hair, real short, and they'll shave their beard in the summer, and in the wintertime they grow, especially in New England. A lot of guys have beards during the winter, and it's funny because growing, it's no problem. But then when spring comes and they shave it, they go out of the bathroom, the dog barks at them. Hey, it's me. And they, oh, just look different. Sorry. But, I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks. I had a lot of fun doing this and putting these photos together. I like the studio shows. They just take a lot of time to put together, and I don't have a whole lot of time, but it in this particular case, it was okay. I had those photographs already organized. It's just a matter of, putting them into the slideshow and arranging them the way I wanted to, and making sure that I have my story straight. But fortunately, I do have the blog to refer to. Now, the funny thing about the blog is I hosted all my photos on on Flickr, and I used a plugin, and the plugin works. It's just that it doesn't show in line. It doesn't show the photos in line anymore. So I have a photo blog. It's probably got 30 or 40,000 photos on it. And now, for the most part, most of those photos are like, they don't show in the blog in line. They have links, which is very strange. Some of the later ones do, well, actually, I pretty much quit. I pretty much quit blogging when I started live streaming, and I have a couple of photos that I did in I did one photo in 2020 when we went to Thailand. I did something in 2018 and one photo in 2017, and some of those I have on Flickr, and some of them I have on Google. But the later ones on Flickr, like the ones on in 2017, they're showing in line. But earlier ones, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. It just doesn't make any sense. But there you go. So I had the blog, and I went over the blog post, and I was looking at it to make sure that I got my facts straight. But I'm going to put together some more of these studio shows for you guys, and I got a lot of stuff because, like I said, I'm one of the original travel bloggers, but there was no YouTube back then. And by the time YouTube came along, I just really didn't want to have to get into editing videos and doing all that stuff. So I really like live streaming, and I've been to a couple places. I live streamed when I went to the United States in 2018. I did some live streaming from Bali in 2017, and I also did some live streaming in 2020 from Thailand. So not as much as I would like to, but I do have a lot of video footage, and I have a lot of photographic footage from those trips, and I could definitely do a live stream studio broadcast and show those to you, and that would be a good way to do it. I think to me, that kind of beats doing those. To me, they're kind of boring, these edited videos. And so, because this way you guys can ask questions. I can turn the comments on and off and show the pictures with or without the comments. So, all right. I want to thank everyone for joining. And I don't have a Real Taiwan theme song. See, I've been so busy. I have a studio. I got it's my consoles here and everything. I have drum machine, keyboards, and guitars on the wall. I mean, I actually have a theme song that I could use, but I just haven't put together, an opener and a closer. So I'm gonna have to do that soon. So yeah, bear with me. I just haven't done it, and I can also port it over, to the mobile app too. So, but we'll see you guys. Tonight's Thursday night in Taiwan, and we'll see you guys on Sunday. All right, and I'll have something for you new. It'll probably be in the field. So I want to thank everyone for joining, and you guys take care, and we'll see you next time on The Real Taiwan. Catch you guys later. Thank you so much for joining.